Today's daf is Masechus Nedarim, Daf Chaf Ches. We are at the Mishnah 3 lines from the bottom on Chaf Zayin and Beis. So the Mishnah is going to discuss now different additional cases which are Nidrei Einsim and their mutter. So the halacha is, like the Mishnah, Nedarim laharagin. You are allowed to make a neder in a case where you have a situation where there's thieves that they want to kill people to take their money. Ulacharamin means people that steal money. Ulamuchsin means people that come from the king and they say that they're here to collect taxes. So if they come to take, let's say, Paris, you let them make a neder to them and tell them that this Paris belongs to Truma and therefore they won't take it. V'afal pisha ain't a Truma, even though it's not true. And so too, Zakt the Mishnah, you also let to tell them that this already belongs to the Beis HaMelech, and then they won't take it, even though it's not true. So Zakt the Mishnah, Shami says, when you let him make a neder, in any case, you let him make a neder, in order to pop yourself up from an einus. Chutz mibishvua. Besides, if it's the case of shvua, which is more chamer. Mishalom says, af b'shvua. Even in the case of shvua, when you're making a shvua, you're allowed to save yourself your money. By making a shvua which is not truthful. In case of einus. Says the Mishnah Vayter, you should not, the guy that's getting hounded by these situations, these einsim, you're not allowed to suggest it to him that he should make a neder. Rather, if he asks, so if the guy coming, if you're not allowed to suggest to the guy that's coming to collect for the king, let's say mas tax, you're not allowed to suggest to him that we'll make a shvu to you, that this is a neder to you, that this is Paris Truma. Rather, just if you ask him, he's allowed to make a neder on his own. Beis Hillel says, yiftach lo, you're allowed to even suggest to him that he should make the neder. Another machlekes b'shamay and Yisrael. B'shamay ayim retiru b'ma shehu madiroi. That he's only, the whole heter for him to make the neder is only in what he's making a neder. The whole heter for him to make the neder is only in what the anis is, the person that the messenger is coming after him for. But he's not allowed to add on. But even on other things he's allowed to make the neder. Ketzad, for instance, like the Mishnah, Amar Loi, if the honest tells him, and more kind of ishtin honestly, say also, if he tells him, say, I'm asering my wife on me, and the noider is moisef, and he says, Amar kind of ishti ubanayin animally, and my kids, Vishame says, ishti is mutaris, since the whole thing was einus, ubanav asurin, because that he did on his own. Beis Hillel says they're both mutter, because since the whole thing he only did it only to save him his money, so therefore everything's mutter. Zok the Gemara. V'ha'amar Shmuel dina malchus dina. So the Gemara's kasha is, how's a mutter for a guy to make a neder of sheker to be pater from meches? Shmuel says dina malchus dina. So any laws that the melech makes is a good is dinim that you mechuyev to keep. Amar Chanan, Amar Kahana, Amar Shmuel. Chanan, Amar Kahana, Amar Shmuel says it's talking about, the Mishnah is talking about moichas she'ein lekitzva. I mean, there's no set amount. He's just taking however much he wants. He's not even taking kafi, the decree of the king. So that's not called din, rather that's called gzeila. And in such a case, you don't say dinam l'chusay dina, and a person's allowed to be noider nor to save his money. To be Rabbi Yana Amar, the Yana says a different teretz that the Mishnah is talking about, that he's coming on his own, this Meiches, and he's not even a messenger from the king, and he's just taking tax Shalai Kedem. Zak the Mishnah weiter, Zak the Gemara weiter. The Mishnah said that you're Noida Laharagin. Those are thieves that kill people in order to take their money. Zak the Gemara, Shehein Shel Beis Melech, V'Alpi She'ein Shel Beis HaMelech. Yes, it's not going on the halacha, it's going on the halacha weiter that said that the latter, what's a nether allowed to make? Then the latter say that he shall truma, even though it's not shall truma. So Zak the Gemara, Heichi Nadar. The Mishnah also said Shehein Shal Beis HaMelech, allowed to make a nether that belongs to Beis HaMelech, even though it's not Beis HaMelech. So for Gemara, Heichi Nadar, and what lashon do you make a nether? Every nether is saying a devar iser, but when they're saying that it belongs to the king, that's just verifying a fact. How's that a nether? It's not lashon iser b'chlal. So how's that a nether? Rav says, Ba'aymer is talking about, he says, Ye'asu Paris Ha'olam Alai, the Paris of the world should be also to me, if these Paris do not belong to the Beis HaMelech. Okay. In fact, Gemara came in Amar Ye'asu, since he's saying Ye'asu Paris Alai, if these Paris do not belong to the Melech, Yitasar Li Kol Peri Alma. So all the Paris in the world become asar on him. So how does the Mishnah say that this nether is mutter? So the Gemara's question is, he already asked the Paris of him, so how does he undo that? So the Gemara is talking about Ba'aymer Hayyim. He says, Ya'asar Paris Alai Hayyim, if these pairs are not Shal Beis HaMelech, so only today. So for Gemara, Ida Amar Hayyim only says it for today, Lam Kalman and Meiches. The Meiches is not going to accept that. He's not going to believe anything, because the Meiches doesn't care if he asks it just for one day. That means nothing. If he says he always asks all the pairs in the world and forever, then okay, maybe he'll buy it. I remember the Gemara, Ba'aymer Beliboy Hayyim. It's talking about when he says Beliboy, he only makes a nether for that day, but he doesn't speak that out. Visvasav, he says Stam. He says Stam, that the Yasa Paris lie, and the Meiches is understanding it to mean forever, La'olam, and he believes it. The Afagav Tzfirla and Dvarim Shabalev, and Dvarim, even though normally we say Dvarim Shabalev, it's in his heart, which does not speak out with his lips, it's not Dvarim. And since his Mashmoyis is, that's La'olam, L'chor is Machshava should not help, Mvatal, what comes out of his mouth, which is mashma forever. Mikol Malcolm is like more like Gabi Oinsin Shanim. When in case where you have a Oinis, they were Mako, and they said that his machshava of asking just for one day, that works, and the nether could only be, attack only works for that day, and it's not chal. Zok the Gemara, Beishamei Oimrim, the Mishnah said, Beishamei says, Bakol Neidrin Chutz Mishvua. He could be make a nether and everything, but not a shvua because it's mochamer. Bishol argues that even b'shvua, because motel lahatzol l'mayne. So that was Beishamei said. So Dr. Gemara, Beishamei mashu madirei, b'shol af mashu ene madirei. Beishamei says, actually this is the Mishnah. This is the next thing in the Mishnah. Beishamei said that he's only allowed to make a nether, mashu madirei, what the honest is asking him about, what he wants, and Vishol says even on other things. Kate said, what's the case? The Mishnah said, Amar like Kainim Ishti Nenesli Amar, and he said Kainim Ishti Uva Nainenli. Bishamei said Ishti's Mitaris Uvanam Zasur, and Vishol said the whole thing is mutter. So Amar of Huna says, Tana, we learned in a Brisa a different Nusach in the Machalekes. Bishamei Oimim Lo Yiftach Le Bishvur. Bishamei says he should not suggest to the Meiches from his own will that he wants to make a shvur. But Beis Hillel says that he could suggest that he wants to make a shvur. Fact the Gemara, L'Beis Shammai b'shvuot l'yiftach. So according to Beis Shammai, he's not allowed to be matzia to the moichers that he wants to make a shvuah. He's not allowed to open up when he wants to make a shvuah. Ha b'neder yiftach. He is allowed to suggest it. But Tanan, the Mishnah say Beis Shammai oimim lo yiftach l'mineder. Beis Shammai said before lo yiftach l'mineder. Pursue another question. If on Lashon of Bryce says Masham Iftachu lo yiftach le b'shvuah, that he's not allowed to suggest that he wants to make a shvuah from his own will, is aser ha made another b'shvuah. But if the honest asks him, he's allowed to make a neder with a shvuah, even b'shvuah. Means he's not allowed to be pesach like that, but from the honest asking him, he's allowed to. So for the Gemara about Tanan Beis Shammai Omer, Mishnah says Beis Shammai says Bakol Noidun Chutz B'Shvuah, that you're is master from the Mishnah. You're allowed to be noider, but you're never allowed to be noider shvuah, even if the honest asks him to. Zok the Gemara Tana Masnisim Beneder. That the Mishnah means that the Mishnah that says Lo Yiftach Loi B'Shvuah, the Mishnah that says as Miftach that Beis Shammai says that so like this. So the Gemara is saying that the halacha, Beis Shammai would hold like the mashmois in the Mishnah that you're not allowed to be pesach b'neder and you're never allowed to make a shvuah in any case. And there's no steer between the dukim of the Mishnah and the Brayso. So why? Because Tana Masnisim b'neder. The Mishnah says the halacha by neder lo hiviach hakoichon to Beis Shammai. Only because it's coming to tell you the chiddush, the strength and the chiddush of the halacha of Beis Shammai, that they're makar and they hold that although it's mutter to make a neder, however, it's not mutter to be pesach b'neder. And even the Brayso is maskim to this. And Tana Brayso shvuah, and the Tana the Brayso talks about shvuah to tell you the koyach beis hillel, which is meiko and holds that not only is it mutter to make a shvuah, but it's also mutter to be pesach and to suggest that he's going to make a shvuah. But it's not coming to tell you that you should be medayik in Beis Shammai that it's mutter to swear. About the Beis Shammai's taka holds that it's never mutter to make a shvuah. Zok the Gemara another Taraz. Rav Ashi says the Brayso is not talking about at all in the din that the Mishnah is talking about of Noidin Laharagan. Rather, this is what the Brayso means. Hachi Gitani. Beis Shammai oimim ein she'ela b'shvuah. Beis Shammai says, Brayso is talking about a whole different halacha. Beis Shammai says that there's no din she'ela l'chacham b'shvuah, since a chacham is allowed to be mater only in the daram, but shvuah says he's never allowed to be mater. It's asur lahater. And that's what the Brayso means. It said yiftach le b'shvuah, that a chacham can never be mater a shvuah al yidei pesach. So oimim yesh din she'ela b'shvuah. The fundamental machlokes, which says that there is a din she'ela also on shvuas. Zok the Gemara, Zok the Mishnah weiter. This Mishnah is a continuation for the din that we had before. Some say that it's a continuation to the din of Nidr Shkagos, which you had on Daf Chafei Beis. And some say that Aga that we talked about before, the din of Nidr Einstein, so the Tano is coming to say a din which is similar to Einis. And some say that this Mishnah is no shaykhis mamash to the din of this parak, rather because we're talking about Nedarim, that you don't have pivali b'shavah behem. So the Tana speaks about also somebody that's makdish things, where also it's ain pivali b'shavah. Okay. So now the Mishnah is also going to point out different lashonis of neder. If somebody sees a very strong wind blowing through his field, and it looks like all the trees are about to rip out. And he says, he says that all these natias, all these plants, these trees are carbon if they don't get cut down. And he's trying to say that he's going to bring with the value of them a carbon. So too, somebody sees a fire that comes down in his city and he's afraid he's going to burn his talus. And he says, talazu carbon im ein nisrefes. It will be a talus if it does not get burned. The halacha is that the tias and the talus are kodesh. However, yesh lam pidyon, but you could be redeem them. But if he says the tias elu carbon achi katasu, that they should be these tias or this talus should be a carbon until they're finished. So he's trying to say that they should be kodesh forever. Or if he says talazu carbon at shetisare, if it should be a carbon. Or if he says talazu should be a carbon until it gets burned, which is mashma should always be a carbon as long as it's around. Allah is in that case you cannot redeem it and ein lam pidyon. So the Gemara asks the kasha over here that the Mishnah says if somebody says carbon in the ketzasis, the halacha is yesh lam pidyon. So the Gemara wants to know over listening kaddish. Let the Mishnah just say that kaddish, and anything that's kaddish always has pidyon. That's a regular halacha by things that have a din kedusha. So let it just say kaddishos ve'ein kaddishos. Either it's kaddish or it's not kaddish. Zok the Gemara, Seifa Elam Pidyon, because it says in the Seifa does not have Pidyon, and it couldn't say halacha, it couldn't say in the Seifa Ein Kedoshos. Why? Because it's not true. It does have Kedusha, you just can't be paid this. So Tananami Reisha Yesh Lam Pidyon, so that's what it said on the Lashon of the Reisha of Yesh Lam Pidyon, and not that it's Kaddish. Zok the Gemara Heiche Nadar. In what lashon did he make a neder when he was makdash in the tiyas? And we say mach was there, the hekdesh is chal tonight. If he said like the stam lashon in the Mishnah, which is mashma, they said it should be kaddish me'ein nektasas l'chayra, the hekdesh shouldn't be chal because it doesn't have to be chal because the tiyas don't get cut down. Rather, they're going to get cut down one, but right now none of them are cut down, so why should it become hektish? Amar Meir, Zakta Meimar, it's talking about Ba'omer im einin ektatas hayoyim. He says these tiyas should be a carbon if they do not get cut down today. And since it's a takan, then it's not going to get cut down today, so therefore the neder is chal. Ba'avar hayoyim lo niktasu kumtois. The Tanai is Kayim, and the Hagdish will be Chal. So, fact the Gemara Im Kain that is Maktush Tanai, that there should be Shalay Yiktsu Hayoim. The Taka didn't happen. Lamlin and the Meimar. What's a Chiddush in the Mishnah? It's Pasha that if Maktush Tanai and the Tanai is Kayim, and the Hagdish is Chal. Like tomorrow, like Tzricha, it's talking about going to Ika Zika Nefisha. That there is a very strong wind that seems like it's going to rip out all the plants, and he says that these plants should be kaddish if they don't get cut today. Al yidei this wind. Zak the Gemara v'aktani la gabe talis. It says the same halacha legabe talis. And if the guy says in this refes, and if it's talking about regular hektish, v'talis asreifa kaima, does this talis ever get burnt? It's not oimit to be burnt. So how is a mishnah toila din of hektish in something that's not normal to happen? So the Gemara. So Ella is like the Gemara, you have to say that the Mishnah could that there's already a fire in the city, and therefore the chashash of the towel is going to burn. And he says that if it does not burn, it should be hektish. So hachanam, you'll say similarly, it's talking about the ikazika nefisha, that there's a very big wind, and he says if If it's not going to pull it out, then it should be hektish. And the chiddush of the Mishnah is v'salka daitoch. I might think the maska daito lemisnatzlan, that he holds that avada that a tias will not be saved from the wind. Mishum hachi kanadar, and that's why he's making a neder. But had he known that it will not get ripped out, he would not make a neder and say it's nidr shkagos. Kamashal in the Mishnah does not have a din in nidr shkagos, and the neder taka could be chal. And his kavana is because he makes a neder al das and he thinks it's not going to get ripped out, and we say that kamash malon, that he knows that it will not get ripped out, and his intention is to makdash it even if it does not end up getting ripped out. That's what the chiddush of Mishnah is. So Zok Gemara, that's the chiddush of the Mishnah. That you'll say the hektish is chal, and you don't say it says din like nidr shkagos, and it's the whole end is bottle. Zok the Gemara weiter. The Mishnah said, "Arei netias elu carbon." In a case when the Mishnah say netias elu carbon, the Mishnah said "Arei netias elu carbon." Achi katetsu. So if he says there should be a carbon achi katsu, which is mashma, he means to make it a carbon forever, then the halacha is elam pidyon. There's never a din pidyon. You can never redeem it. For Gemara la'olam, is it possible that forever you can never be makdish it? L'chur, in any hektish that helps pidyon, how is it possible that you can never take away the hektish from something? You don't find such a thing in hektish. Amar Rapada says, but emes that what Yitaka could be paid. And the Lashon of Mishnah Elam Pidyon means that there is no Pidyon which takes it legamri out of Rishos Hektish. Rather what? Rather even after Pada'an Choyzos of Koyzos, even after you redeem it, the Netias go back and it's Chalnam Hektish. And even if Padan, even if you redeem it a second time, still a Kedusha goes back on. Ad Shikat, so until it gets uprooted and cut down. Why? Because his Lashon, when he says, Harei Netias Hekdesh Ad Shikat, so he means that Kedusha should be Chal, keep on being Chal, as long as it's not Niktas. But Niktasu, then the Hektish cannot come back and be Chal on it, because he said, Ad Yiktasu. And Lamaisa Zak the Gemara that even after it's Niktasu, he said he's maximum until they chop down, but it's not enough. The Kedusha doesn't automatically leave once it's Niktasu. He has to be Elapoidam Pamachas, he has to be redeemed at one time. Vidaya, it's enough, and goes out Lachun Gamri, and it never comes back on. Zok the Gemara weiter. Ula Amar, Ula argues. He says, if somebody says Harei Netias elu hektish achi katatsu, so he's trying to limit the zman of hektish. Since once they get cut down, then it's not kaddish anymore, and it does not have to make a redemption. Rather, the kedusha goes away by itself, even without pidyon. So that's a machlokes. Ula holds it goes away by itself, and Bar Pada, the Gemara just said, held it does not go away by itself.